So to get started, I want to introduce myself. My name is Megan Jabori. I'm JD Advising's lead course instructor and tutor. I also instruct our MPRE course, and today we have a Q&A session to get more information about what the online testing experience is like for the MPRE. So, I would like to introduce everyone to Matt, and I'll let Matt introduce himself for a moment.
Hello, my name is Matt. I'm a recent JD advising a student, both for the MPRE and the bar. Uh, had a great experience with JD advising, and I'm just here to kind of give you some insight on what to expect during the August and October upcoming MPRE exams.
Excellent. Well, welcome. So, my first question for you is, since you took the MPRE at the Pearson View Center, what could you bring in? What was allowed?
What was allowed? It wasn't really anything much. I mean, if you needed medications, that was something you could bring in a clear plastic bag. I believe you could have a couple lozenges in that bag as well, but that's basically it. There was no pencils, no water bottles. They have a locker for you to keep your belongings in the piercing center, so you have to make sure that's all locked up. Obviously, no hats. Before, when I took it in March, we weren't wearing masks. I'm sure masks are going to be a thing where you're going to have to bring them in, and obviously they're going to check those masks, I'm sure. But other than that, it's just really the medicine, maybe the lozenges, no snacks, no water, and coming in and out of the exam, you can't access your locker.
Okay, so that's good to know. So, they did provide you with a safe place to keep like car keys and things like that that you couldn't
Yes.
sit with?
Yes, they did. They lockers, individual lockers. The one thing is though, I would try to get there before your testing exam because they don't have too many lockers. I was lucky to get one. I think a couple people that came after me, they didn't have access to the lockers. So I would try to come maybe 30 minutes before the exam, as in any exam that you would take.
Right. That's a great tip. That's a great tip. That way people don't have to maybe go back and forth to their car to put, keys away or whatever they'll have to do if they don't have access to a locker. So good to know. So what was the exam software like? Could you describe it or tell us a little bit about your experience?
Absolutely. The exam software that we were using, I can't remember. It wasn't exam soft. It wasn't something that I was familiar with. It's kind of their own software that they're using, but it was very straightforward, very easy to use. They do have a practice exam which you can take. I urge everyone to take that before taking this exam to get familiar with that software because I believe you shouldn't have to waste time on actually understanding the software. It just should be going towards the questions. But one thing I liked about it, better than the testing center when I took it at OU, was you can flag the questions, go back, and I'm not always a person to say, hey, change the answer from your first, and you should always go maybe with your first instinct. But it was nice to be able to flag it, go back, and it was very accessible, which I did like. It didn't waste too much time having to go and check and answer. And be able to not second guess yourself, but get the correct understanding of what you want to put on the paper.
That's great. That's great. So just to be clear, you actually didn't like physically bubble in a Scantron, correct?
No, no, there was no, like I said, no pencils or anything. You can't even bring scratch paper that we were used to having before, or even the exam booklet. So no, it was just flagging the question, and then it was all computerized.
Okay, excellent. So did they give you anything that you could use if you couldn't bring in your own scratch paper or pen and pencil? Was there anything you could physically take a note on, or was that not an option?
That was not an option. As far as I remember, I think there might have been a section on the exam soft or the software they were using to where you can maybe type in some notes, but then again, I'm not positive on that.
Okay.
Um, with the MPRE, it's really looking at the questions, and I didn't need to type out too much things. So when it comes down to it, it's really just the question, the call, the question, and the answer choices.
Excellent. Okay, so that's good to know. So, in terms of the actual testing center, could you describe what the room was like, and if there were other people in there with you? Were they all taking the MPRE, or how did that work?
Yeah, so at the testing center, and I just want to kind of go back over. Like I said, you can't bring anything in, so they provide you headphones. You can't bring in your own earplugs. The headphones they do give you are supposed to cancel out sound. Uh, Unfortunately, they didn't do that for me, and I don't know if that's going to change because it's sanitary and everything else. You know, when I was in the testing center, people it was staggered. And one thing about the exam is it's not given at a certain time as the MPRE is usually given, say 8 o'clock, and that's the one exam administered to all students. I went, I think it was around 10:30. People were leaving. The first round I think was at 8, and then when I was leaving my exam, there was other people coming in to take the MPRE in the afternoon, I believe. So that was one nice thing is that they do have testing staggered. But the one thing about the testing center, there's other individuals taking, say, the MCAT, the DCAT, whatever other licensing exams that need to be given are also administered while you're taking the MPRE. So you're not dissected from other people taking exams for other courses or, say, licensing exams. Um,
Okay, so that's great to know. So you could have been sitting next to someone taking the MPRE on your left, and on the right could have been, like you said, someone taking another sort of licensing exam, not the MPRE,
Absolutely,
basically.
absolutely, and that throws you off depending what was on the screens. But long story short, like going into the testing center, all the chairs, all the computers are kind of shaped as in a horseshoe, and then there's a window where two people are pretty much sitting there administering every exam. They're just making sure, checking you're not obviously cheating, not doing anything that would be unethical or against any of their policies. But the way getting in, they pretty much fingerprint you. You scan your finger, and that allows you to get in back into your exam. Can you leave that testing center? Yes, you can. They'll let you leave. They check you before you come back in. You have to scan your hand. You go back to your table. If you do have a question during the exam or something does go wrong with the software, the people that are in front behind the glass, you raise your hand, they promptly get up, they come to you as soon as possible and try to figure out and help you with any issues you may be having.
Oh, excellent. Okay, great. So you can take, a restroom break, it sounds like, but you then have to kind of go through the security procedure to get back in to be able to access your exam. And I'm assuming that they don't stop your time, correct? You're on the clock the whole time.
Absolutely, absolutely. No stopping for time and no going back to your locker. There's none of that. The restroom at the testing center where I was taking the MPRE this last time, there was a restroom and there was a water fountain right next to that center. So it's not. It's real quick. You gotta take care of anything you need to take care of, or even maybe just walk out for a second. That's perfectly fine. I don't recommend it, however, just because the time you're given to scan your finger, to go back in, to sit down, how much time give and take in the exam. It's kind of one of those things, try to get back as soon as possible, but you're not just let through the door again. You have to scan yourself in, you have to go check in at the front desk before you get scanned in. So it is a process getting back into the testing center.
I understand. So definitely a little bit time consuming. That makes sense
Absolutely.
for
Absolutely.
security reasons.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So overall, what did you like about taking the MPRE online?
So taking the MPRE online, the biggest benefits that I took away from it, there was the staggered time. I was more or less able to take my exam later than say 8 in the morning, which everyone has different schedules. I have a young son, so in the morning it doesn't work as me as well as maybe say 10 o'clock, maybe later morning or early afternoon. Another thing was that I liked the software. The software was very accessible. It was easy to use. Like I had said before, flagging the question, that was nice than having to go back in a booklet and trying to find the question. And in a way, it just made it more clear cut because you're not writing everywhere. You're not scribbling down. You're not putting in a circle or bubbling in an answer. And I think that saves time. I think that it is an advantage in itself to be able to take it online because you're not wasting the time writing. You're pretty much using the click of a button to get the answer on the computer. Um, like I said before, the software was accessible, easy to use. Like I said, I would take a mock exam just to get familiar with it, but it's not something you can't get familiar with on the day of the exam.
Okay.
Uh, and the lockers, like I said, at least they have something to store your stuff there. but get there early so you do get a locker. So
Okay, so that's really great advice. And then, that sounds like a positive experience overall. And I'm kind of with you based on other people and what they've expressed to me with their experience is they thought the software was pretty user friendly and it actually bought them some time, less
absolutely.
time bubbling, less time flipping. So with that in mind, what did you dislike about your experience? Or if you didn't dislike anything, that's okay. Was there anything that was surprising that you didn't maybe know?
Absolutely. Well, when I went to take the exam, I thought it was going to be, everyone taking the MPRE, the same exam. Going into the testing center, the way they administer it, like I said before, it's kind of a horseshoe with the computers and then the people in the glass looking in front. So when you're going into the testing room after scanning your finger, you're open to people taking, say, the DCAT, the MCAT. You'll see on the computers maybe anatomy, stuff you're not used to seeing, and that could throw you off. My best advice is, just go straight to your computer and try not to look around too much. You're still in the zone, you're still in the game. And so when it comes down to it, I just tried to focus in on the exam I was taking, but it's unfortunate. It could throw you off just because you're in a stressful moment during the exam, and there's a lot going on. Another thing I did not like about the testing center is the staggered time that was for the MPRE, but also these other exams going on. They're not on staggered time. I think some of these individuals they schedule times, so people coming in and out of that room is very distracting. Also, the headphones you get to use they're not totally noise canceling. So
Okay.
when it came down to it, I would have rather had my own earplugs. You can't bring your own earplugs in, so you have to deal with their headphones. I don't know if that policy has changed, but they did not help cancel out noise as much as I would have liked them to. That's one thing I definitely clearly remembered when I was taking the exam.
That's good to know. And maybe people, can keep that in mind if they're practicing or getting ready and preparing to take the MPRE. They should maybe get themselves accustomed to maybe having a little bit of a noisier environment when they practice taking tests. So that's great information.
Absolutely, yeah. The biggest difference is before there was more regulations in the testing centers to where it was a quiet place. You didn't even need headphones because people weren't getting up, and if they were, it was done so individually and differently. Here, once you're done with the exam, you get up, and after that, you have another person coming in, maybe sitting next to you. So it can be distracting, but like I said, just keep your head in the game, and you'll get through it.
That's great advice. Well, thank you. And I think everyone's going to find this very helpful.
You're
The
welcome.
one thing I want to add is everyone listening, if you're preparing to take the MPRE, please be sure to thoroughly read the National Conference of Bar Examiners website so that you can read all of the test day policies for yourself. Because, of course, you want to make sure that you're not missing anything. And if there's a certain set of circumstances that apply to you, you're prepared. So, again, just to recap, please go to the NCBE website and read their test day policies. And then, lastly, be sure to check out our free JD Advising MPRE course available online. So thank you very much, Matt, for your time. I think everyone will find this very, very helpful.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.